Good evening. We'll go ahead and call to order our May 20th, 2025 joint Board of Supervisors and Planning Commission meeting. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we'll have our invocation.
Will you join me in prayer? Our God, we thank you for bringing us together this evening to discuss the issues that face this county. Be with us. Let us listen to each other. Let us think about what each other says, what's behind it. Be with us and guide us, for without you, we are nothing. In Christ's name we pray, amen.
Amen. Next, roll call. Kelly, if you could take roll call both boards, please.
Mr. Bowen?
Here.
Mr. Walls?
Here.
Ms. Phillips?
Yeah.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Doss?
Here.
Mr. Roush?
I'm here.
Mr. Morgan?
Here.
Mr. Meade? Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Meeks? Ms. Minor?
Here.
Mr. Riddle?
Here.
Mr. Cook?
Here.
Thank you, Kelly. Since this is a joint meeting, the format and the procedure is a little different than what the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission may be accustomed to. Next will be approval of our agenda. You just did.
That's right. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Approval of agenda, Mr. Cook. Start with Planning Commission.
Do we have an approval of the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. Second. Mr. Morgan made the motion, Mr. Wilson made the second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. That's awesome.
Board members,
Mr. Chairman,
take a motion.
did I hear somebody on the computer? Somebody said Oh, okay. Okay, I got you. The ayes have it unanimously, but we have Mr. Meade not present. Thank you.
I'll take a motion to approve or amend the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda. I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item is a public hearing on a request for a conditional use permit to allow for a grass. Oh, correct, thank you.
I gave you the script on that, because you're not used to doing that.
That's okay, it's right here. Excuse us, we apologize. Next is our public comment, general public comment. So I'll read those guidelines for the general public comment. If you have comments to make in reference to the public hearing, we would ask that you wait until then, not make your comments during the general public comment. Speakers are limited to one opportunity of 3 minutes. Each speaker shall open his or her remarks by giving their name and mailing address for the public record. Speakers cannot assign time in whole or in part to other speakers. Commission and board members may interrupt any speaker for questions or clarification. Material submitted for review and for consideration by the Commission of the Board of Supervisors must be submitted to the recording secretary for entry into the proceedings. Do we have any sign up for regular public comment?
Just public hearing.
Is there anybody that would like to speak during the regular public comment period? Made that easy, thank you. We'll close that portion of the meeting. Now we'll move on to the public hearing. Next is a public hearing on a request for a conditional use permit to allow for a grass airstrip at the corner of Route 14 and Fickle Fen Road. Mr. Andre, did I say it right this time?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You've been practicing, haven't you?
I have.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors. Before you tonight, you have application 2024-01231 requested by Joseph Purdue for a conditional use permit pursuant to section 175.5.3 of the Matthews County zoning ordinance to allow for a grass strip, which staff classifies as an aviation facility. The subject property is 29 plus acres and is located in West Matthews at the corner of Route 14 and Fickle Fen Road. And it's identified as tax map parcel 20A9 and is zoned rural. The applicant is requesting a CUP for occasional takeoff and landing of single-engine aircraft on a grass strip. This airplane is STOL capable. That means it's a short field takeoff and landing. Most airplanes like this can take off with 200 feet of runway and land in 400 feet of runway. If you looked on the GIS map and you looked at Fickle Fen Road and measured the distance from Fickle Fen Road to the southern portion of this particular piece of property, it's 1,513 feet long. So he could take off and land twice with room to spare. The Army Corps of Engineers has delineated this property for wetlands, and a portion of it will be used as a grass strip. That's the western portion of the property. This will be away from the wetlands. There are 3 ditches that exist on this property, and these ditches you can see from satellite imagery. In order for this property to be useful as a grass strip, those ditches will need to be piped. Now, this piping does not in any way alter the flow of water to Fickle Fen Road, nor does it exacerbate it. In fact, it's pretty much a zero-sum difference in the amount of water from the wetlands that he has on his property that's going to go to Fickle Fen Road. In fact, these ditches cross Fickle Fen Road and go into adjacent properties to the west. This grass strip can be a bona fide clearing for emergency rescue operations like Nightingale. All right, several zoning considerations. Section 175.5.32 of the Matthews County zoning ordinance allows for an aviation facility via conditional use permit. Section 175.2.2 of the Matthews County zoning ordinance defines an aviation facility as facilities for takeoff and landing of an aircraft, including runways, aircraft storage buildings, helicopter pads, air traffic facilities, information facilities and devices, terminal buildings, aircraft maintenance facilities, aviation instruction facilities, and heliports. This is just a grass strip that he is applying for. The applicant also has a grass strip landing field on a different piece of property. It's identified as 20A-1, which is about, a third of a mile from the proposed grass strip that he is pursuing tonight. The applicant will discontinue his current CUP on parcel 20A1 if this one is approved tonight. Public comments, you probably received several email on this. In your packet, you've got about 41 signatures on a petition against this. You might have received other means of people's input that I haven't been made aware of. There's the outside agencies, the ones that one that matters is BDOT, and I'll get to BDOT in a moment. What their recommendations is on flying across Route 14. Also, as with all conditional use permits, there are some requirements that you all have to think about whether or not this application is appropriate for that piece of property. And that goes along with all the other use permits that you've there's a list of 10, 18 items to look over. Okay, should the planning commission approve this, or the board of supervisors should approve tonight? Staff recommends that this conditional use permit be granted under a few conditions. Be granted for a grass strip only. That the previous conditional use permit for landing strip parcel ID 20A1 is considered null and void. And if this application is approved, that be granted if no military helicopter operations are conducted on either parcel. Let's see, 20A1 and 20A9, so no helicopter, military helicopter operations. That if it be granted if this aircraft does not operate from this property, it does not operate takeoff, land, or run-ups during night as defined by 1.1 of the Federal Aviation Regulations, which means the time between the end of the evening, civil twilight, and the beginning of morning civil twilight as published in the Air Almanac converted for local time. Number 5, that this be granted if the aircraft uses this property for takeoff, it must be at least 1 hour after civil twilight is published by the Air Almanac converted for local time. This is dawn, so 1 hour after dawn. If the aircraft is used as property for landing, then it must be 1 hour before civil twilight, as published by the Air Almanac converted for local time. This is dusk. It must land 1 hour prior to dusk. So in other words, no night operations. If that all takeoffs on the property be towards the north, so it will take off and cross over Route 14. Then, and also if the wind direction isn't favorable for a southbound landing, you have to land over Route 14, that an alternate runway must be used. If the aircraft operates, that it should be granted if the aircraft operates under VFR conditions as described by FAR section 91.151, 91.159, with the exception of what's mentioned in sections of what I've just said, 4, 5, and 6. What I'm saying here is that VFR, you can fly at night with VFR conditions. There are no lights on this particular piece of property, so you won't be able to do that. But what I'm saying is the conditions I'm putting on here are a little more restricted than what the FAR is required for official flight rules. That if the applicant complies with the VDOT with regard to the glide slope and or above ground level requirements. VDOT recommends that on approach to landing that he be at least 30 feet above the road or at an angle of 3 degrees. So what that's saying there is if he's coming in for a landing, he's not going to do one of these landings and scare everyone on 14. He will be coming in very gradually and setting the aircraft down. If the applicant complies with the Code of Virginia section of 5.1, 72 regarding registration of the private landing area. So those are my recommendations, or staff's recommendations with respect to this application.
Thank you. If we have questions, we'll ask you a little bit later in
Yes,
the process. Mr. Perdue, would you like to come up and address the board and the commission in reference to your application?
Good evening, Joe Perdue, 76-2 Lunch Road. I'm here to request approval to continue using private property for a grass runway for a small private aircraft. practice that was carried out for 9 years, just a short distance away. I understand that the request involving land use deserves careful thought, and I appreciate the opportunity to present the facts that support this proposal. On the county's definition of an aviation facility, Mr. Andrew just gave you that, so I'm not gonna go through all that again. My property is zoned rural, we have a flat, no grass field, which I can have by right. Also, on a pole barn for storage, but I don't want any of the laundry list of other things that go on with the airport facility. I have stated that I use my airplane only a few days a month, never at night, only during daylight hours. The opposition has stated that my friends and I fly consistently every weekend and some weekdays. It's absolutely not the case. In the 6 years I've owned the airplane I have now, I've only put 106 hours on it. Previously, I shared with the planning commission in an effort to demonstrate how infrequently I use the plane. I have provided both boards with a copy of my registration showing the year built and the Hobbs meter showing the hours on the plane. I added 30 minutes to that, the beginning of the month for the May fair. It seems that most people in Athens like to see airplanes flying. I get asked to do it for Christmas and that every year. My average flying session lasts probably about an hour. That being the case, in the last 6 years, I've made about 106 flying sessions, which works out to about 18 a year, or 1.5 times a month. Certainly not consistently every weekend. Many planes seen flying in the area are from Rick's Flight School in Newport News. It uses the Matthews area to teach student pilots. Rick's Flight School informed me that they did talk to Miss Losey, and that they informed her they did not land on my current grass strip, which is true. But they also informed her that they did use the Matthews area as the number one practice area. And I've given you a letter in your folder from Rick's Flight School describing that. Let's see. Law can do everything I need to do on the property except for take off the land. In addition to the mowed grass field, the pole barn, I could, by right, open many other things there, tractor sales, by right, leasing, repair facility, which could be open 6 days a week with broken tractors with all kinds of fluids dripping on the ground, waiting to be repaired. Could open a business to sell and store agricultural and farm supplies and buildings constructed on the property. I could use it for hunt clubs, kennels, keeping of livestock, fowl, plenty of other uses. All these by right uses are far more intense, noisy, and less safe than a grass runway and a pole barn. And would certainly have less impact on the land regarding the concerns. I have enclosed copies of the Google search on decimal ratings from my engine, as well as other pieces of machinery and vehicles to both boards, showing the comparison of the noise with related, chainsaws, leaf blowers, trucks, all that kind of stuff. The noise I'm gonna make is only gonna last a couple minutes, and then it'll be gone. It's not something that could be a big thing. It has been suggested by the opposition that my grass strip would devalue their properties. I would agree that if I were to build a full-blown commercial airport, they may have a point. No aviation-related facilities and very little takeoff and landings for months, I don't see how the values could be impacted, particularly when compared with the noise, traffic, odors, and many of the outright uses which I could put on the property. I don't think any potential buyers in the neighborhood would want to live next door to any of the other options when they could live next to a flat mowed grass field, but the guy that only takes off the lands a few times a month. For reference, the state of Virginia requires notification to a potential home buyer in the area of a large military or commercial airport, and specifically excludes small airports such as Hummel and others, certainly not a grass strip or a pole barn. There are 410 private grass strips in Virginia, and there are 3 in Matthews currently. I have given you a section of those on there for you to see. Regarding the danger factor, the opposition stated I could lose control of my plane while taking off or landing and run over kids playing on bicycles or 4-wheelers or golf carts when people get ready. While this could possibly happen, the possibility is remote. There's a much greater chance that one of the residents' cars or the FedEx or UPS driver could hit the children. Is that realistic of a problem? I should ask the children to stay off my property with their bikes and 4-wheelers and recreational vehicles. I don't want to do that. I think we should all learn to play together. Also, remember that I had a significant and personal vested interest in all the safety concerns. It has been stated that I could hit poles and wires along Route 14 and disrupt the power communications to the courthouse. Also, I could startle, travel, and cause them to wreck. I've been flying for 40 years, the last 8 or 9 years, right next door to the subject property. I have never hit a wire, to my knowledge, caused a wreck. I'm asking you to look at the facts, not the hypotheticals. I want to point out that I have agreed to a one-way out, one-way in, one-way. I will not be taken off the landing over any houses. I have also agreed to no helicopters and never any nighttime flying. In closing, I know that some concerns have been raised during this process, and I respect the right of every community member to be heard. But I urge you to make the decision based on the facts, not hypotheticals, or the fear of what might happen. What I'm asking for is not new, it's simply a continuation of the use that I took place 1,800 feet away for 9 years without any complaints, no incidents. The history combined with a strong safety record and documented responses to every concern raised should give you confidence in approving my request. There's no evidence to suggest that approving it will lead to any different outcome than before. A quiet, safe, and responsible use with no disruption to the community. I appreciate your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Purdue, thank you. I'm sure the commission and the board will have questions for you at a later point in the process. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I will open the public hearing for application 202401231, requested by Joseph M. Purdue for a conditional use permit pursuant to section 175-5.3B2 of the Matthews County zoning ordinance to allow for a grass strip which is classified as an aviation facility. The subject property is located at the corner of State Route 14 and Ficklefen Road in Matthews, Virginia, 23109, and is identified as tax map parcel 20-A-9 in zone rural RU. Speakers excluding zone applicants and staff are limited to one opportunity of 3 minutes. Each speaker shall open his or her remarks by giving their name and mailing address for the public record. Speakers cannot assign time in whole or in part to other speakers. Board members and commissioners may interrupt any speaker for questions or clarifications. Speakers' remarks shall only be directed towards the merits or demerits or other issues germane to the public hearing. Materials submitted for review and for consideration by the board and commission must be submitted to the recording secretary for entry into the proceedings. Kelly, do we have get the sign-up list? We'll start with the sign-up sheet. You can call them.
First name on the list is Kathy Purdue.
Hi, Kathy Purdue, 762 Hunts Road, Port Hayward. I've chosen not to speak in the last two meetings, believing that the facts presented by my husband were enough while listening and observing residents against the grass strip, stating facts and that were not true. He's been upfront with all of the information, not knowing the decimal output of the airplane, particularly the amount that he does fly. It's been very difficult to hear individuals state as facts that they know how much he flies. They don't know any more than I know how often my neighbor leaves their driveway and comes back in. The most concerning has been some of the, I guess, ridiculous comments. I can't sit in my yard and have a beer because of the noise of a plane. It's not our plane, but anyway, that's, that it's affecting TV reception. No, it doesn't. If he crashes, there's gonna be no way out but to go by water. It's just not gonna happen. And we've heard about the solvents that are gonna leak in the ground. His airplane only has gasoline and oil. Tractors, cars have other solvents, other things that seep into the ground. But quickly, the most upsetting have been some of the things that were public, that were put in emails regarding, for the board last meeting that was rescheduled. So I want to let people know, first of all, that my husband's health, it was a question that should be a red flag that he could barely stand up and get here. He has done construction work for 49 years. Maybe he doesn't stand 6 foot tall straight, but it's from working. He gets 3 physicals, 1 physical a year, 2 physicals biannually for a CDL and an FAA license. I assure you, he still does construction work and can fly an airplane without any issues. It was stated in one of the emails that this grass strip is, his previous one is longer. The previous one's 1,300 feet. This is 1,500 feet. In addition, he will not be flying over any numbers. He's flying over 14 and landing over 14. When he goes over the neighborhoods, he's going to be 500 feet or so in the air. So I really want to just clarify that. There was also a statement made in the email that he states that he's going to close down the other grass strip, which is a contingency, but not believe that he is due to wetlands mitigation, or his wetlands bank. If you research it, he's got to, and they have already started the plannings on that property as we speak. So so really, I just, mainly just some of the
Ms.
misinformation.
Purdue, your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Kevin.
Wednesday, triple.
My name's Lindsay Tridico. My wife and I live at 540 Brittany Lane, which is about 1.2 miles due south of Joe's present airstrip. I'm a pilot, and for those of you who know there's been some talk of the yellow plane. I've got the yellow Cub with the big fat tires on it, in case you've ever seen me fly. I fly down to Matthews often because I've got a house here. It's all Class G unrestricted airspace, so we can fly all around the area here. I'm either flying by myself or taking other people who call me up or see me, they ask for a ride, and I introduce them to low-level flying in a Cub. It's a lot of fun. I will say Joe and I organized the first flyover of the Matthews Christmas parade, where we got a handful of pilots fly over, and we hope to make that a tradition. I've flown into this Fosterfield airstrip a number of times. I've got to tell you, generally, there's nobody there. I don't know precisely. 95% of the time, Joe's not there. If he is there, he may not even be flying the plane. Maybe 1% of the time, he comes in, goes out for an hour, flies the plane, comes back, and puts it away. The busiest day of the year, that airstrip, is his annual barbecue, where he's got 50 or 75 people who come in. And the most planes I've ever seen there, 3 or 4. Now, I say that because I understand that there are allegations that Joe had dozens of planes flying off his airstrip. I don't think that's ever happened. Now, I will say this in fairness to the comments. On the day of his barbecue, from probably 12 to 3, we took people for rides. That's one day a year. That was ended at 3 and we ate barbecue and put planes away. So my thought is, if you're trying to decide if approving this new airstrip is going to disturb the neighbors, I'd suggest past performance does equal future results. How many complaints has there been about his airstrip over the last 9 years? I made some inquiries. I think the answer is 0. I'm not entirely sure of that, but I think that's the case. Also important is trees, tall trees. That tall stand of trees that divides his property from the adjoining neighbors, as a pilot, that comes into play. I don't want to take off by 14 and be accelerating down and try to climb over that obstacle. Now, planes on takeoff at high power settings, low speed, that's where they make a lot of noise. But because of that tall stand of trees, what a sane pilot would want to do is taxi down, quietly, turn around and take off to the north, which he's agreed to do. But what I'm saying is, even without that condition, we would want to do that anyway. And why is that important? Because the noise of the plane accelerates, it's going away, 1,500 feet away from the house. Same thing when the plane comes into land, it's at low power settings. Could you come in over the trees? Yeah, but you'd have to slope it down. Instead, it makes much more sense to come in over 14, put the plane down in the field. You're at low power settings, it's not making noise. Nobody would even hear the plane land. So I would ask you to approve this petition. The county will survive this. Thank you.
Who's next?
Bill Gardner.
Good evening. Joe Gardner, 756 Hunts Road, down in Morgan. Thank you for the time. I don't have any special expertise to share, as has already been shared, but I've known Joe for about 20 years. He's really one of the most outstanding, upstanding people that I do know. And his word is his bond. I've ridden with him in his plane several times, and if I ride with him again the second time, he's got to be a pretty safe pilot, and he is. And he has a lot of good friends who are, and they enjoy taking people for rides. He's also one of the most considerate people that I know in terms of neighbors. We are neighbors with him. And being able to be helpful to other people in the community, do things for Matthews and other people. So I'm speaking to his character. He is truly one of the very best people and most honest people that I know. I would trust him with anything that I am. So if he said certain things, you can accept that as his promise. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next, Kelly.
Mark Flynn.
Mr. Chairman, members, good evening. Mark Flynn, I'm the attorney hired by a number of the neighbors. You know, on the application you see, there looks like about 50 people have signed opposed to this thing. A little bit of background about myself. I started flying in 1970 on a taildragger pilot, fly grass strips like the applicant does. Have a little bit of horsepower in it because my airplane's not quite as fast. But I'm also the county attorney for King William, and I'm representing Middlesex and Expanded Airport, and former director of the Virginia Department of Aviation. So I know a little bit about flying airplanes. There are some issues with the conditional use permit. That the staff recommends the departure is only in the north and the landing is only from the north. Well, when the wind's blowing, which your wind blows here a lot, you know, you have during the summertime, it's like about average 7 miles an hour. You're going to have to take off in the wind, and a short strip like this, you have to land into the wind. So maybe the applicant will only use it those times, but the conditional use permit does not restrict this airport to that airplane. He currently has it's currently a Bear Hawk. It's a good airplane, short takeoff and landing, but he could buy a Twin Beach, and this conditional use permit would apply to that airplane then. Also, for example, there's no military helicopters. Well, that by negative implication means if I have a Bell Jet Ranger civilian, I'm a wealthy person, which I'm that I could land that Bell Jet Ranger there. That's a noisy aircraft. So, if he were to buy a different airplane that doesn't have the performance specs, then that'd be a whole different ball of wax. And this conditional use permit is not limited to that. So it also is not limited to one airplane. So certainly if the applicant would know the condition with the pines on the south, power lines on the north, somebody else coming in wouldn't necessarily know that and cause a problem. Now, as far as safety, I mean, yeah, none of us pilots want to have a crash, but airplane engines do quit. In fact, the highest percentage of crashes for this kind of airplane occur on landing and takeoff and climb. So it's the most critical phases for this kind of airplane, and that is, you can be a really good pilot. If the motor quits, you're going down. That's all there is to it. And so, for the residents south of this proposed runway, all those people who signed that petition, that means 60 plus neighbors or so. It's going to be a new fatal risk of harm to them, because if something does happen with somebody, whether it's the applicant or somebody else taken off to the south, the engine quits, and the airplane goes down a little bit to the left, hits the nearest neighbor's house, or it's coming in landing, they make a turn to land, they stall at the wrong time, and then lose control of the airplane, then that's going to be a problem. And and there is going to be noise. I love airplanes. I love all kinds of airplane noise, but aircraft are noisy instruments, and it's a lot different than running a lawnmower. All lawnmowers are a part of everybody's that has grass, and this is something that is very different. Then finally, turning to what your zoning ordinance actually requires, that for a conditional use permit to be approved, it has to be designed, the CUP has to be designed and operated to be harmonious with the intended and existing character of the general vicinity. Well, as you all know, what you have in this general vicinity to the south is a bunch of neighbors. It's a residential area now. It's not a farm down there as much as it is residential. So it's not going to be harmonious. Will not be hazardous to existing or neighboring uses. Well, as I say, I don't want anybody to have a crash in an airplane. I love flying, but airplanes do crash, and this phase of flight, taking off and landing, is the most critical. And even to the north, where there aren't neighbors, and where it's a road, if somebody loses an engine going out to the north, they're going to go down to Route 14. And finally, if I may, will not involve uses, activities detrimental to any person's property or general welfare. That's another standard for your conditional use permits. And finally, if I may, the existing runway, you probably wouldn't have many complaints. There's a big creek, I don't know if it's a creek, but you'll call it a river, to the south. There aren't really houses around it, in contrast to this property here. So for those reasons, we ask that you not approve this.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. Kelly?
Christine Brannon.
Good evening. My name is Christine Brannon. I live at 362 Gales Neck, Matthews, Virginia. I live in this area. I bring in the subject of Mr. Purdue looking into having an airstrip against the Highway 14 and Picklefin Road, backing the neighbors' yards. We have brought to the table signed documents with the majority of the neighbors signed against the airstrip. We've already received the vote from the Planning and Zoning Committee last time, 5-2. The majority against the airstrip is truly unnerving that we will still have to walk and wait to vote, and for the supervisors to be able to vote for us. We have brought emergency evacuations, blocking the only two roads in and out of the peninsulas. We've mentioned the electrical grid to Matthews, toxins entering the waterways, decibels over 85, and depreciation of our land and property. Some have stated installing orange aerial marker balls on the wires and the north of the Highway 14. But when the full-grown trees become of height, they will be blocking those aerial balls. Some say we should place signs for the flying aircrafts in the areas. Imagine driving and Mr. Boudou or his friends fly too low, too close. One of our relatives that are elderly, they will freak out. I'm absolutely sure of it. Who's going to be responsible for the controlling of the airstrip? We have seen the National Transportation Safety Board records in the small aircraft accidents. In our volunteer emergency departments, we have a hard time recruiting Matthews Peninsula residents in case of disasters. If something happens to Mr. Purdue, what becomes of this land and what happens to this strip? If something happens to Mr. Purdue, what becomes of it after? It was brought to my attention that there was a donation that was for the betterment of Good Matthews. And this was done, and I would pray that it's not done in persuading any votes. Most people who buy homes in this neighborhood have an airport landing strip, can't complain. But us, we put our money into our land, into our homes, just for someone's hobby. And it's dangerous. It's not a place where I want to be able to watch children walk up and down Pickle Fin, watch them on our roads. I watch children during the summer. I'm scared to death to walk over that way. If he's flying in that area, I am going to be scared to death. I have a baby that I watch. Very, very concerning. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Jennifer Lucy.
Jennifer Losi, 368 Peach Point Road, Matthews. I want to thank the 5 planning commission members that voted against this application and put us homeowners first. You all voted 5-2 denying it. Nothing in this application has changed at all, other than Mr. Purdue now owns the property, not the soft coast. For that reason, none of your votes should change. I would also like to thank each board member that has taken the time to come out to our property to meet with us to discuss our concerns and look at how close this is going to be to our homes. The board has always valued quality of life and sided with property owners who want to enjoy their property in peace without interference. When you all took this position as elected officials, it made it your obligation to keep all Matthews citizens safe. Approving and allowing any type of airstrip to be less than 400 feet from our homes, less than 45 feet from the main highway, and less than 90 feet from where kids play and families enjoy the outside does not uphold that commitment. If we come to an agreement this evening on conditions for this permit, just know that with the board approving this airstrip, it will put Matthews County in jeopardy of unlimited liabilities and litigation when the unthinkable happens, because it's not if, it's when. If the board feels that one person's hobby is more important than 28 families sitting in this room here tonight and approve this application, we request very strict conditions to be put on the CUP that are enforced to the fullest by every single one of you on this board. I want it on record from each of you here tonight that if we come to you with dated time and proof that any of these conditions on this permit have been violated, that the CUP will be revoked immediately. If that decision comes from the planning director, then we request Mr. Andre on record here tonight to confirm that he will follow through and revoke the CUP immediately as well. I understand not wanting to tell a property owner what they can and can't do on their property. However, when someone wants to do something on their property that's going to negatively impact and be unsafe for 28 homes and families that were well established long before Mr. Purdue purchased that property, this is a different story. No one wants to live next to a noisy operation of any kind, much less one that has no restrictions on the amount of uses one can have. We feel that if you want to allow him to use this property for his airplane, that each of you also respect us as established homeowners and take into consideration what additions we need in the CUP to make sure we are hopefully protected. It's the only fair thing to do. Mr. Purdue is the only owner of this property, not him and his 4 friends. He should be the only one that is ever to use this airstrip for flying, period. There should be absolutely no consideration at all for friends to use this airstrip. His friends can fly to the top of the airport if they wish to come visit, and if they all want to fly together over market days of Mayfair. They do not own this property, nor are they Matthews County tax-paying citizens. How do you put restrictions, manage or please 4 friends? 4 friends in turn into however many friends he wants, however often as they want. That then turns into 4 more times of traffic, flights, noise, and potential of horrific accident. Anything more only than Mr. Purdue using this grass airstrip then turns into an airport, and we are 100% against that.
Mark Losi,
Good evening. Mark Losi, 368 Peach Point Road, adjacent to the property. The conditions of 28 families on Peach Point Road, Gales Next Place, Pickle Fen Road, and the homes on Route 14 request to be added to what is already in this conditional use permit as follows. In the application, it states that Mr. Purdue can take off within 200 feet. We request that it be in the CUP that Mr. Purdue must be at least 150 yards or more off the Losi property line every time he takes off. That Mr. Purdue is the only person allowed to use the airstrip, period. Not just the restriction of military helicopters. We request that the make, model, and description of the airplane that he owns be put on the CUP so that we can verify that it is the only airplane using the airstrip. Number 7 and number 8 need to read, all takeoffs and landings must be over Route 14. Not if. Mr. Purdue is to never take off or land coming over the Losi property for any reason whatsoever. If he has an emergency, he needs to find an alternate landing strip to land his aircraft. I want this specifically stated in the CUP. If by piping the 3 small ditches on Mr. Purdue's property, he causes any water backup or cause any type of flooding, road erosion, or damage to Pickle Fen Road, Mr. Purdue is responsible for paying for fixing any damage caused by this. If there are any children playing, families walking on Pickle Fen Road beside Mr. Purdue's property, he is not to take off or land while they are playing. He is to make sure that there are no one where in sight before he takes off or lands his aircraft. We feel that it is only fair if you approve this airstrip that you add these conditions in this permit to accommodate all of us and hopefully keep our homes and families safe. We feel like we are meeting in the middle by doing this. By not adding the conditions, we request that you are telling each one of us here tonight that one man's hobby and want is more important than our need for safety, security, welfare, peace, and quality of life in our neighborhood. His wants should not overpower our needs. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Kelly, who's next?
Diane Lawson, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Diane Lawson. I live at 504 Peach Point Road, Matthews. The planning commission set the tone for the original CUP application from the Sockos 99 at 5 to 2. Nothing has changed except Mr. Purdue's name. It will still affect 28 homes and families in Peach Point subdivision, as well as everyone on Pickle Fen Road. The safety of our children that play, ride bicycles and four-wheelers on the lane, which is a right-of-way, also get on and off the school bus is a concern, since the proposed air landing strip is only 50 feet from the lane. Consider the huge distraction of a plane taking off and landing over Route 14. That is only 50 to 70 feet above the road. Startling drivers. Sheriff April Edwards stated their department could handle an airplane accident. Yet at the last meeting, she stated that she needed more help because they couldn't handle all the accidents when it snowed. This is the main road of travel going in and out of Matthews County. Mr. Purdue also stated his airplane is no louder than a lawnmower. I would like for you to listen. Does it sound like a lawnmower? Would you want this activity going on in your backyard, around your property, or even in the neighborhood? Put yourselves in our place. Unsafe conditions, loud and disturbing noise, disrupting your quiet and peaceful neighborhood. I doubt. Please consider this decision to deny this air landing strip out of respect for the people of Peach Point subdivision and Pickle Fen Road, and not for one man's wants and his hobby. Thank you for your consideration. But if our wishes are overruled, then at least give us the consideration and decency of not allowing any other individuals, so-called friends, to use this airstrip as stated by Mr. Purdue. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lawson. Kelly, yours things.
James Croxton,
Good evening, James Croxton, 320 Gales Neck Place, Matthews, Virginia, the Peach Point subdivision. I just want to start off, you guys have heard this and heard this and heard this. This is nothing personal against Mr. Purdue, or Mr. Purdue personally. I've heard a lot of good things about Mr. Purdue and some not so good things, just as people say about me. But in reference to this grass landing strip, here are some of my concerns. The lack of transparency. If Mr. Purdue, in my humble opinion, came in here and said, hey, this is what I'd like to do, A, B, C, D, F, G, maybe he wouldn't be getting the resistance from us that he's getting. But every time we come to one of these meetings, we hear something new or something different. And that concerns me. My career is why it concerns me. Now, here's some things about flying over homes. The homes down Picnic and Honey Pod have been flown over at low altitudes to the point that greeting gestures have been exchanged between the pilot and the people on their property. One. Now to the landing zones. The county has some designated LZs. One being at Mr. Purdue's current landing strip, which cannot be accessed due to a locked gate. This is according to a local firefighter. But an LZ can be deemed anywhere, including your front yard, as long as it's safe. The grass landing strip brings no guarantee to the safety of the traffic on Route 14. It brings no guarantee to the protection of life, limb, or property for homeowners on Peach Point, Gales Neck, Pickle Fen, and the 2 residents on Route 14. It brings no guarantee that home values will not be negatively impacted. It brings no guarantee that any or all violations of the conditional permit will be enforced, to which opens the county of Matthews to unlimited liabilities. I wonder why Mr. Purdue isn't putting this grass landing strip near his home or his neighbor's home. I've asked a lot of citizens, would they want this near their home? Everyone said no. I asked you, would you want it near your home? I've spent the last 45 years taking a proactive position to help maintain the peace, tranquility, and safety for all citizens. We as public servants sometimes have to make difficult decisions, but we have to make the right decisions. I'm asking you that you take the same proactive position by denying this permit. Are you willing to sacrifice the safety of all citizens for one grass landing strip? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Croxton. Kelly, next.
Jeff Wallover,
My name is Jeff Walzak. I live at 868 Peach Point Road and oppose the cut for the aviation facility. Point 1. I would argue the undeveloped parcel proposed for the aviation facility is no longer located in a truly rural district which allows for such a cut. The Peach Point subdivision and other homes surround the proposed site. Locating an aviation on a small parcel of land with nearby residential homes is inconsistent with today's reality of how the land is currently being used. I regularly drive by a grass airfield north of I-64 between Lexington and Covington, a large rural district. That one is surrounded by hundreds of acres of farmland without a house in sight. Point 2. The aircraft facility would clearly disrupt the quality of life of nearby residents with its noise and seeing low-flying planes over their houses. The applicant says this noise from the plane is only 58 decibels, others say it's 100 decibels. It really doesn't matter. A plane flying low close to your house is still very noisy. I live on the East River. A few months ago, I was enjoying the view and its peace and quiet while watching herons fishing for food. Then I saw a small plane flying west up the East River just above treetops. I remember shaking my head and thinking, that plane and its noise don't belong here and should not be flying this low over our houses. Point 3, the aircraft facility would clearly be a safety risk to nearby residents, but also traffic on Route 14 and all Matthews County residents. The proposed parcel for the aviation facility is not large. I suspect landing and taking off safely in high winds require most of the existing length of this property without much margin for error. A low-flying plane will be a visual distraction to Route 14 drivers and potentially cause accidents. Trees line both sides of the property. Eastbound drivers on Route 14 would be blind to an approaching northbound plane on takeoff and could easily be startled. If the pilot lands or takes off via the south axis, they will be flying low close to homes over the East River. Aircraft accidents do happen. Even to highly trained commercial pilots, we've already had several plane crashes this year. Point 4, the aircraft facility is a potential environmental issue. The National Wetlands Inventory indicates the parcel includes freshwater wetlands. Wetlands are wet and soggy, and after a heavy rainstorm may be unsafe to land. The applicant may need to harden wetlands for safety reasons and comply with existing federal and state wetland mitigation goals. He's already taken out a couple trees. Residents enjoy watching wildlife in the marsh and along the East River. Eagles often nest there. Low-flying planes over the river and marsh would disrupt and possibly chase away shorebirds and other wildlife. In summary, the aviation facility benefits one person, but negatively impacts many others. We chose to live in Matthews County for its quality of life and peaceful, safe environment. I encourage the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission to reject this conditional use permit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Kelly?
Samuel Varga.
Good evening. My name is Sam Margaret. I live on 710 Fickle Fen Road with my wife and newborn son. And I'd like to just focus on one particular topic, which is property values. A lot has been said about that. And so I did the work to research this a little bit. And there's been consulting firms, real estate brokerages, and academic professionals who have done research on property value impacts from noise increases. And it's a pretty clear correlation. And the issue here is that there is no frequency limitation on this CUP. And that means it can be anything, which means every single decibel that increases, that's 0.5% to 1% of value knocked off our homes. Now, since home values are a big part of middle class wealth, this is a real issue for us, and it would significantly impact our futures, especially for a young family like mine. That's where all our wealth is tied up. So, interestingly enough, I think this actually comes back to taxation, which has been a topic for the county recently. In effect, for all the neighborhood, this would be a second tax after the property taxes just went up. And unlike the property tax, this would actually not benefit the county and its residents, which is our problem. And so we would be penalized for living here, which is completely counterproductive to why we moved here in the first place. And so we would like to request that this be denied, or as Lois has stated, it would be really important for us that there are additional restrictions on exactly how this can be used so that the frequency is capped and does not get to a point where the noise actually starts to increase and decrease our property values. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Kelly?
That's the end of the list.
That's the end. Nobody else has signed up. Okay, thank you. Is there anybody that would like to speak that did not sign up? Okay, sir, you can approach.
My name is Kenny Barton, 629 Possum Point Road, Fort Hayward. I know Mr. Purdue for a while, and he is an outstanding resident of this county. He's very respectful to us, and has always done that. say it leads to believe that plug has been blown out of proportion. There's no derelicts in this crowd. The other pilots that have been at these parties, when they talk about playing this serious stuff, there's no joke, there's no drinking, there's no, the people in Pickletown or wherever, they have people over, they have drinks, they leave, they drive and stuff. None of that happens when there are airplanes involved and stuff. This is a very safe operation. And all of these pilots are very considerate of every citizen of this county. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Here with this time, we will close the public hearing and public comment for the hearing and turn it over to the chairman of the planning commission for their discussion and in order to make their recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Planning commissioners, we have a motion. So we can get this into discussion. Ms. Meyer?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve CPP application 202-41231, the staff analysis conditions 1 through 12, and with the following added conditions. Number 1, that this CUP be granted to the applicant only for his home-built light sport single-engine aircraft only. Number 2, he posts signs on Road 14 both directions to alert motorists of possible low-flying aircraft. Number 3, he contract with Dominion Energy to have visual markers placed on their lines where his aircraft will cross Road 14. Number 4, that he not fly over each point subdivision. And number 5, that should he pass away or sell the property, the CUP will be null and void.
Commissioners, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Riddle. Do we have discussion? Any commissioners would like to ask our zoning director any questions?
Yes, sir, I would.
Mr. Andre, will you come up, please?
A brief statement and then a question and clarification. I did go out and look at the existing facility and ask some of the neighbors how disruptive it was, and they were very benign about it, said it wasn't a big deal at all, didn't bother them. The only time it did, they said, when military helicopters came by. And I noticed we mentioned military helicopters in there. Could we amend this to include any helicopter and not just limited to that? But other than that, that's why I'm supporting. Thank you.
I think you could do that with any helicopter except for the emergency services.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Andre? Thank you, Bobby.
Thanks, sir.
Does anyone have any questions for the applicant, Mr. Perdue? Do we have any further discussion on the motion, Mrs. Mount? Mrs. Mount, I think you, can I take this?
Yes.
I think you've given the people in the audience what they've asked for. You've asked for staff's analysis conditions plus the following 5. So without any more discussion, I'm going to ask for a vote on Mrs. Miles' motion to include staff analysis conditions. That would be 1 through 12, and to include the following. This CUP to be granted to the applicant only for his home-built light sports single-engine aircraft only. He posts signs on Route 14 in both directions to alert motorists of possible low-flying aircraft. And I take it them signs will be placed on his property. Is that the motion?
Yes.
Okay. Number 3, contract with Dominion Virginia Power to have visual markers placed on their lines where his aircraft will be crossing over Route 14. Number 4, that he not fly over Peach Point subdivision. And number 5, should he pass away or sell the property, the CUP will become null and void. Does everyone understand the motion?
Question.
Yes, sir.
With this amendment, it's my understanding that the only person who will be able to use, under any circumstance, that airstrip would be the applicant. Nobody else.
That is correct, except for emergency vehicles or helicopters.
And number 2, the second question. The applicant is responsible, will be responsible to contract with Dominion Energy and with VDOT on those various points about signs and warning, balloons and that type of thing. Is that correct? The county will not have to pay for that. Mr. Purdue will pay for that.
Let me clarify. Motion does not state he has to contact VDOT because the signs will be on his property and away from the VDOT right away. He can't put signs in the VDOT right away.
Well, how can people see the signs from the highway?
Let me go to your other question. Marine Power Marcus, is that what that was? Yeah. Restate your second question, sir.
How can a person driving on Route 14 be aware of this situation if they can't, if the sign is not on the VDOT property?
If I may.
You can, yes, Mr. Rutherford, go ahead.
Thank you. I've seen in several situations where there'll be signs by VDOT, they say, aware low flying aircraft. And I think that's what we're suggesting should be stipulated.
Mr.
The cost of the applicant.
Mr. Wilson, would you like to amend the motion to stipulate so many feet back off of Route 14 or some certain size of the sign, maybe a 4x4, 4x8?
I have to think how big the sign you might want.
Well, you could ask Mrs. Brown to amend her motion.
I don't think the state has those parameters already predetermined.
I would think so.
I don't.
That's for VDOT's approval.
VDOT's, see, this is the problem with that. VDOT is not making him put a sign. We would put the sign in our conditions, and he would have to go by these conditions. So we would have to state what we would like to see him do. So I need a little more help with that. If you want to do a 4x8 sign, 20 feet off the VDOT right away, so that it's not so far back, or I need a little help with that. If y'all want to-
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Warren.
I would share Doug's sentiments with the sign. Once you get to the point you can see the sign, you're already
Too late.
into the airstrip. And I think that's what his point is how does the sign on his property adequately warn drivers who are coming to Matthews that wouldn't be accustomed to it? Us as citizens would become accustomed to it and know, oh, that's Joe Dude's landing strip. No. But this time of year, you've got people hauling campers in here, you've got people coming to Airbnb, guests for weddings, things like that. These people may not be accustomed to it. And by the time they're able to see and read the sign, they're already on top of a landing strip. And if the plane's already landing, oh crap, there's a plane, they're looking at that, not the sign. So I think the point that is trying to be made is there needs to be adequate signage leading to the airstrip, not just stationed in front of the airstrip. I think that is what he's getting at, and I think that's what Mr. Riddle's trying to say as well.
VDOT was contacted and Mr. Andre, you come out. They gave no indication that they would,
They did not require any signs to.
so we can't provide VDOT to put signage in. We can ask or require the applicant to put a sign on the property, and I agree with you, Mr. Morgan, by the time you get there, it's a little too late, but that's what Francis's motion is, and we can't force VDOT to do anything. So we're stuck with the sign on the property, or, Mr. Ritter?
I would suggest then we amend to say something to that consistent with similar signs found throughout the region and as approved by VDOT with the permission to locate it within the right of way. That structure like that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
may
Mr.
I
Lee.
comment, please?
Yes.
Here's my issue. This is a complaint-driven county. We have no code enforcement. Who's going to answer those complaints? That's my question.
That would be Mr. Bobby Andre.
But he's going to be responsible for correcting any issues that are brought about.
Hold on one second, Mr. Andre would like to speak. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I worked on it.
You are Andrew.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not out there hunting any code violations. It comes to us. So when we get a complaint, my staff and I are very responsive in checking out the situation. We may not have the answer. We may not, our code might not be written in such a way that we can really enforce it. But we are looking at, we do look at complaints. And we do go out there. And if we get a complaint, basically Mr. Purdue's operation of an airplane on his landing strip, and there's a complaint, and it's a valid complaint, we will address it. And we will come to you for suggestions if need be.
Harry, does that answer your question, Mr. Meeks?
Yes and no, to be honest with you.
That's the best you can
I've been
do.
over Delaware County, 40,000 people, just not used to the lack of personnel that can adequately answer some of these questions.
Well, Mr. Andre is the zoning director who will take care of the complaints.
Yeah.
Thank you, Harry.
You're certainly welcome.
All right.
That is correct, as you pointed out, the Humboldt Field does have low-flying aircraft signs. I'm not sure if Humboldt Field is responsible for maintaining those signs, or VDOT is putting in as a courtesy to drive.
I've seen them
Yeah.
out by the road.
So putting a size on these signs might not be VDOT compliant. So I would go with, if you're gonna require them to have a sign, to be that sign, low-flying aircraft. And whatever size that is whatever size that is.
We don't have to be VDOT, right? We're gonna be off the right of way.
Sure.
So, no flying, what did you do?
Oh, no, I just,
Low flying.
low-flying aircraft is those signs that caution, low-flying aircraft.
Caution, low flying aircraft.
Yeah, I think it's a standard sign. It's not somebody hand painted it. It is a sign that you can purchase, or that VDOT has something in there.
Okay, Mr. Roush, you have a question, Mr.?
I do have something I'd like to say.
Okay, let me get through him and the applicant. That will work for you? Thank you. Anybody else have a question? Anybody else have a question for Mr. Andre? Mr. Wilson? Microphone on, please.
It's on.
There you go. No?
What is, looking at this chart up on the screen, what is the distance from the north end of the runway to Route 14?
The north end of the runway and Route 14 are at the same point.
You mean the north end of the runway ends at Route 14?
Yes, the north end of the runway.
There's no open space between the two.
No, the north end of the runway is Route 14 or Mr. Purdue's property.
And what is the altitude for landing and taking off
Okay,
over Route 14?
He would be required to take off from the southern part of his property, and he must. Well, I'm not sure how tall those trees are at the other end, or the north end of Route 14, adjacent to his part across from his property.
But he could take off and land that airplane 2 times in that distance, so he will be clear. At least, he's gonna be at least 30 feet above Route 14, which in that type of aircraft would be easily done. And at a glide of slope of 3%. So he's not gonna do any wild, crazy takeoffs or landings.
In other words, you don't know what the altitude will be. On Route 14.
It must be at least 30 feet.
30 feet?
Per VDOT's requirements, it must be at least 30 feet of coming across that. Now, on takeoff, it's gonna be a lot higher, but on landing, VDOT requires at least 30 feet or 3% license.
30 feet.
That's what VDOT requires.
And the distance, there is no distance between the north end of that runway and Route 14.
Well, whatever the property line in the.
Well, I know there's a property line, but
There's a property line in a ditch. I think.
you're talking what, 10, 12 feet?
From the property line to 14, it's about 40 to 45 feet.
Okay, 40, 45 feet.
How much?
I've been told it's 40, 45 feet.
Approximately 45 feet.
Mr. Rouch, go ahead. Rouch.
So now you have questions for Bobby.
That's fine, go ahead. I'm here to.
Can you, to the best of your ability, point out on this graphic here where the Losi house is? And where the, Phillips house is?
I could not,
I can point it out.
but Ms. Losi.
All right, so,
Jennifer.
yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna assume the,
Thank you, though, I appreciate it.
the yellow dot right to the south. The yellow dot right to the south of the property where you see it says 26 feet.
Yes.
Okay. That yellow dot right
To the southeast.
Where's the cursor?
To the southeast.
To the south. Go up.
Right
Right there.
Right where it starts at.
Okay, and then what about the Phillips house?
Phillips house. I have no idea.
And that's our property behind it as well, it's a whole piece of our property.
Okay, and does anybody know where the Phillips house is?
I don't think it's anywhere near that, I looked at all these.
It says it's,
Karen Phillips.
I don't know, it just says Phillips house is 900 feet from the proposed grass strip.
Karen Phillips is on Route 14. There's 2 white bungalows on Route 4, 2 bungalows on 14.
Okay. All right, that's the only questions I had, but I would like to make add a condition to the permit. So I'm gonna ask Ms. Minor eventually to amend her motion.
Okay, thank you. All right, any more questions about it from any of the commissioners? All right, thank you, Mr.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Andre. Do we have any questions, from Mr. Purdue, the applicant? All right, any more discussion? Mr. Rouch?
Yeah, I would ask Ms. Minor to amend her motion and add the condition to the CUP that the applicant may not take off or land during the hours that the school bus would be dropping off or picking up children.
Between the hours of 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock?
So I'm assuming they pick them up in the morning, which is probably between 7 and 8, and they drop them off in the afternoon, which is probably between 3 and 4-ish.
All right, give me your statement. Is that your,
No, I'm good. Yeah, so I'd ask Ms. Minor to amend her motion to include the stipulation in the CUP that the applicant may not take off or land between the hours of 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. and 4 p.m.
Monday through Friday?
Monday through Friday.
During the school year, summertime they're out.
During the school year.
Thank you, Mr. We are working on it. We're trying to be fair to everybody. Mrs. Miles' motions. And, it's just, so summer school was in the summer. Yeah. No buses? Okay.
Are we sure there's no buses for summer school?
I'm not sure of anything right this minute. I'll tell you that right now. But I see the commissioners are working hard to work this situation out and be fair to everybody, so that's a good thing. I appreciate all the input so far. Yes, Doug withdraw his second, we're getting on the second, once you amend it.
No,
Doug's not amending it, so, actually, he can, yes, just amend your motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend my motion.
Start at the top.
Okay. I'd like to, motion to approve the CUP application number 202-401-231. The staff analysis conditions 1 through 12 and with the following additional conditions added. Number 1, this CUP be granted to the applicant only for his home-built light sport single engine aircraft only. Number 2, that he post signs on Road 14 on his property in both directions to alert motorists of low-flying aircraft, the cost of which will be paid by the applicant. Number 3, contract with Dominion Energy to have visual markers placed on their lines where his aircraft will cross Route 14. Number 4, that he not fly over Peach Point subdivision.
No, I'm sorry, I know that you made some notes and asked about it, but you said the signs,
Yes,
but you didn't include this other.
I did. The cost which would be paid by, yes. I didn't know.
To alert the motorists
Yes, that's what I know.
in both directions.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you read it?
If you would, I'm a little hard-headed, read it again, please.
Back to number 2, that he post signs on Route 14 on his property in both directions to alert motorists of low-flying aircraft, the cost of which will be paid by the applicant.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You don't go back to 4?
No, I'm not that slow.
Okay,
Come
all
on,
right.
continue
Then
on.
number 4, was do not follow the Peach Point subdivision. Number 5, should he pass away or sell property, this CUP will be null and void. Number 6, applicant may not take off or land during the hours of 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. or 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday during the school year.
Right. Mr. Doug, would you like to
Did
second that? Those,
did we include about the no helicopters whatsoever except for emergency? Which I
I
asked
think
you.
it's in the.
that is in the top 12, I believe.
Okay, very good, thank you.
The CUP as it stands is for his aircraft only, that should cover helicopters and ultralights and kites.
All right, Mrs. Francis, you've amended your motion. Mr. Wilson, you second that amendment? All right, so, Mr. Chairman, I need to read this over. Mrs. Minor's motion is to include the staff's analysis conditions. That would be on page 85 and 86. That would be 1 through 12. Also, this CUP be granted to the applicant only for his home-built light sports single-engine aircraft only. Number 2, he posts a sign on Route 14 in both directions to alert motorists of low-flying aircraft. The cost of this, which will be paid by the applicant. Number 3, contract with Dominion, Dominion Energy, to have visual markers placed on their lines where his aircraft will be crossing Route 14. Number 4, that he not fly over Peach Point subdivision. Number 5, should he pass away or sell the property, this CUP will be null and void. Number 6, applicant may not take off or land during the hours of 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. or the hours of 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday during the school year. Is that correct, Mrs. Francis?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. We will now hold a vote. Give me 1 second. We can all skip that. We will now do Ms. Kelly, we'll now do a roll call vote on the,
Question first.
hold on, Mr. Will.
Are we voting on the amendments, or are we going to vote right now on the entire proposal?
Mrs. Francis's, motion was to approve, and I apologize. I should have got that wrong. Her motion was to approve the CUP, so Mr. Perdue, with the following.
As amended.
As amended, yes. Yeas will approve it, nays will be against the motion to approve. Mrs. Kelly, a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Morgan,
Nay.
Mr. Roush,
Nay.
Mr. Wilton,
Nay.
Mr. Meeks,
Nay.
Ms. Minor. Yay. Mr. Riddle,
Yay.
Mr. Cook.
Yay. That, Ms. Kelly, I believe that vote is 4 against and 3 for approval and 1 absent. Is that correct? 1, 2, 3, 4, that's correct. Okay. Can you repeat that, Ms. Kelly, so I understand that you're recording this correctly?
I could not clearly hear the names from the A, yay, so.
Yes or no?
Okay, so we've already done it. So Mr. Morgan is a nay.
Okay,
Mr. Rouch is a nay.
okay.
Mr. Riddle is a yay.
Yay.
Mr. Wilton is a nay. Is that correct, Mr. Wilton?
That's correct.
Mrs. Minor is a yay. Mr. Cook is a yay. Mr. Meeks is a nay. Is that correct, Harry?
That is correct, denial.
So you have 3 for the CUP and 4 against.
That's correct, 4 against, 3 for.
Commissioners, have your votes been recorded correctly?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn? And once we adjourn, I will turn it back over to the Board of Supervisors, Chairman, and then we will get up and leave together.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion the planning commission adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Morgan to adjourn. We have a second by Mr. Rouch. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it unanimously.
We'll take a 5-minute recess while the planning commission.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies, for all your hard work. Appreciate y'all coming in. Your hard work. Appreciate that.
That was good. That's good. That's not good. Yes. This is Thank you. You're welcome.
This is mine. This one stays. This is that's. Maybe she took her stuff right out. She thought it was hers. This one. Okay.
How's that program?
Your stuff is right here. I'll bring it down.
that's not, oh, did you get it?
Yeah, Jimmy didn't know you were over there.
We'll go ahead and call the meeting back to order. Board members, we have a motion regarding application number 202401231, so we can get into discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we approve application, CUP application 2024-01231.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the conditional use permit. Do we have any discussion? At this time, we can ask Mr. Andre.
Yes, sir.
Or Mr. Purdue, or anybody else we need to ask questions.
Mr. Andre,
Yes, sir.
on page 70 of my packet, Code of Virginia, Title 5.1, Aviation, Chapter 1, Aircraft, Airmen, and Airports Generally.
Yes, sir.
5.1-72, registration of private landing areas not within 5 miles of a commercial airport. Says any person owning an area for landing any aircraft, which area is not within 5 miles of a commercial airport and has been constructed by such person for his private use, and which is not open to the general public, shall only be required to register upon forms furnished by the department such landing area with the department and with the Federal Aviation Administration. So your CUP is what you're saying to me is the application is in line with the single owner.
Yes.
As far as the registration goes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's one question I have. This time. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Andre, since you're at the podium, I do have a question for you. How many other grass strips do we have in the county?
I think there is another one, besides the one that is currently, under CUP with Mr. Purdue. It's in Northern County, I believe.
So there's one other.
There's one other. So in total right now, two, to my knowledge.
Two. Counting Mr. Purdue's current one,
I believe there's 3. There's
There
one
might be
in
another one.
Bohannon, one at Cobb's Creek, and Mr. Purdue's on Route 14.
so my question would be, since there's 2 or 3, are any of those other CUPs for the grass strips, are there restrictions as far as how many people can take off and land from those strips, or any of the restrictions that were proposed earlier in the planning
To
commission?
my knowledge, no, even including the one that Mr. Purdue currently has, there are no restrictions with respect to the number of aircraft that can use that.
Are there any restrictions as far as time, or are there any
There are no
restrictions at all?
restrictions on Mr. Purdue's current CUP.
Okay, and you're not aware of the
I'm not
other?
aware of
Okay.
the other ones.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any other questions for Mr. Andre? Mr. Bowman?
On page 82 of the packet, number 3, these are 12 conditions recommended by staff.
Okay.
Number 3, no military helicopter operations are conducted on either property. I think everyone agrees to that, but as a lawyer, that seems to imply that non-military helicopters might be acceptable.
The reason I stated it that way is it was, when this application went before the planning commission, the first iteration, that there were complaints about military aircraft, so, or military helicopters, so I've added that in there. But the altered CUP, will be just for his aircraft, so I guess that would include any other aircraft type flying onto that property.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Walls, as a motion, as a matter of procedure, is your motion to approve the application with the amendments that the planning commission just suggested, even though that failed, or without any of the recommendations from the?
My motion is to approve exactly what the staff analysis says. And I will tell you this, or I'll make a comment. I'm a little concerned about the signs. I don't have a problem with Bobby trying to get with VDOT and ask what the specifics are, because here's what I don't want to see. An automobile going towards coming into Matthews. If it's on Mr. Purdue's property, that's fine. I'm sure he can get a sign, close enough so people can see it. If you're coming towards Gloucester, I don't think a sign on his side of the road is going to be adequate. I would prefer that we find out what the state does, and then I agree with the gentleman there. I know that the caution low-flying aircraft are over in Tompkins, and it appears to me that they're fairly close to the road. So that would indicate that they're in the VDOT right away. If we're gonna post signs, I want it to be legible so that people going both ways can see them. We don't need cars going towards Gloucester, looking over on the opposite side of the road to try to read a sign, just my opinion.
Well, when you get to signs, I certainly think if you're going to, you need to have something to warn the public. It seems to me that we're not going to be able to resolve that tonight. I think the most effective sign is what has been indicated is the signs on VDOT. And you said on both, going in both directions. I think that would be appropriate. But that's going to require discussion with VDOT. VDOT was asked about signs. I think they said I'll be correct me, I think they said they had no intention about.
I asked, the question I was posed, it's in your packet, it was about aircraft landing over Route 14. And they said that it must be 30 feet above, he must clear the road by 30 feet or be at a 3% glide slope. So I did not press him or even question him about signs, but if there's a sign available that they recommend or that should be placed in a situation like this, maybe you can add that to the CUP.
Right. So VDOT has not said they would not place signs.
No, they did not say that they wouldn't or it's not required. They just said clearing the road by 30 feet or 3% glide.
I think the restrictions suggested by the planning commission, even though it failed, are good and valid. Mr. Purdue, from everything I know, I've heard about him, he's a man of his word and a good character. So I don't question anything he says about what he's going to do. But, number 5, should he pass away or sell the property, this CUP is null and void. Without that, who's to say what comes next? So I would want to see these 6 additions from the planning commission, and I would also ask that that the motion not be passed tonight, and so we can talk to VDOT and get there, because I do think that's the most effective way to place a sign on the highway right away.
I have a quick question for Bobby.
Yes, ma'am.
In the paperwork, there was, I think from VDOT, there was a takeoff and landing vectors mentioned when we
Yes,
got.
yes, ma'am.
So what do they mean by a vector? Is that,
Well, I
is
don't
that
know.
the slope?
Well, I don't know if he said vectors or,
It says takeoff and landing vectors do not cross Route 14. That was the email we got. I'm sorry, I don't know what page it was.
well, let me see if I can find it.
Three-degree approach.
Okay,
The wording is runways or similar facilities shall be placed at proper distance to allow a minimum glide slope for aircraft of 3 degrees approach said runway or at a height over the roadway of 30 feet.
I think what I was referring to was an email, not, that was early on, I think. I just happened to see it and I didn't quite understand it, that was in them, and it probably could be that.
well, also, in an email addressed to me on Monday, December 30th, 24, Mr. Butler says, there may be some minor details that arise at, site plan. However, as long as the takeoff and landing vectors don't cross it, I don't see VDOT having much concern. And then I replied to him, I said, what about one topic? And then he came back, well, he needs to be over 30 feet and 3%. That's how that.
All right.
That's-
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any further questions for Mr. Hendrick?
I do. And the requirements for approval for a conditional use permit in your recommendations here.
Mhm.
Stand by just a second, Mr. Nygaard. I'll get back to you. Don't worry. Let me look at something.
Do we understand that as this is written, this is applicant only and his aircraft? Does that mean the aircraft he currently has on an aircraft that he may have another one? In which case, I think we should say, make that clear, because it's possible that Joe may have another airplane, not different from the one he currently owns, because I guess you could sell that one and make another one. I think it could be specified it has to be a short takeoff and landing aircraft, a single engine short takeoff and landing aircraft.
Mr. Hendrick, your restrictions for the way that it's written for just that aircraft, or is it the CUP tied to the land and be like anybody owning a vehicle can buy and sell? And
I kind of saw it as the CUP is registered to the applicant and whatever airplane he is flying, whether it's this one, if he sells it, gets another one, he can use his airstrip for any future aircraft. That's how I envisioned it.
But I think you should specify single engine short takeoff landing aircraft.
It would have to be.
Yeah, probably, let's put it
Do
in.
it that way anyway, right?
Okay, and yeah, in your 12, I don't see where it really says specifically that it's for his aircraft only. I think that this was brought up by the planning commission. And from what I have understood from listening to and talking to people that would be affected by this, that's a big part of their issue is that if it is approved, that it be limited to his aircraft. Now, I do think that Mr. Perdue may have a different take on that, and I think we need to get that clarified, and I'd like to hear from the applicant. If there's something different here, Mr. Andrade, you had said that this is limited to his aircraft. This CUP, and I want to go on the record, as it stands right now, this paperwork is limited to his aircraft and his aircraft only. Is that correct?
That would be my understanding of this application.
Well, it's not.
Can
Is that correct?
You may put in conditions that you want in addition to the ones.
I'm talking about as this is presented, because the motion on the floor is right now, the motion on the floor is to accept it as presented.
Okay, and what I'm asking you is that correct? You have said this evening, on several, that it's limited to his aircraft.
I've read twice in just the last few minutes, the 12 conditions, and I don't see that anywhere in the 12 conditions. So to me, that's a concern.
Okay, but those are my conditions, you may put in the conditions.
I understand that, but the motion, I understand that, but so everyone's clear. The conditions 1 through 12 do not limit it to his aircraft only.
I just reread them incorrectly, it is not specifically limited.
All right, so the motion on the floor does not limit it to his aircraft.
But you're not considering what the planning commission,
Excuse me?
that's it, so you're not considering what the.
Well, that's not the motion on the floor right now.
Would it help if I amend my motion?
Mr. Walsh, did you want to amend your motion?
I do. Well, yeah, but I'm with David. I would like to hear from the applicant. I don't have a problem with amending my motion, but I do have a couple of questions for Mr. Perdue.
Mr. Purdue, are we finished with Mr. Andre right now? For this, at this time? Okay. Mr. Purdue, could you come forward, please?
Hi, Mr. Perdue. Question for you. Back in January, when they had the first planning commission meeting on this issue, you had said something about doing flyovers for market days, Mayfair, and the Christmas parade.
Yes,
Do those flyovers take off from your, or I guess would come into the county on your strip, and then whenever you guys organize it, take off from your strip?
we have done it that way. We've also organized it topping and left from there. We've done it both ways.
Okay, and my next question was, or is, if, say you came in and knowing about flight and the wind is coming strong from the south, what would be your alternative to land?
Well, if it's coming strong from the south, it would be perfect for me to land. If it was coming the other way, then I would have to just go to topping and land.
And where would be your alternate choice?
Topping,
Topping?
yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. Purdue?
I do.
Mr. Vaughn?
Judy, would you mind putting that slide back up that shows the two airstrip, shows the, it's up there earlier? Yes. So, Mr. Purdue, if I understand this, your current airstrip is shown in red,
Yes,
and the proposed airstrip is shown in blue,
yes.
if you want to call that blue. Why is it that you need a new airstrip?
Because the original one is on a wetlands bank. And I've sold all the credits up front, and I'm now developing the wetlands bank where the runway is. So it has to be planted in trees and hydrology has to be changed.
Right. So for economic reasons, you want to move it?
Well, I have to, we've already put that into motion 9 years ago.
Okay.
No, I'm perfectly happy with where it's at. I wish I could stay there.
Well, I wish you could too.
I would like to clear up a couple of other things. There are 3 other grassland strips in Matthews. I've given you a section with them marked on there. None of those have any restrictions on them. And I never said anything about, so I'm trying to put in a private grass strip. Private grass strip means one airplane is stored there. You have to have permission to come in there if you're someone else. So someone would have to call, ask me if it's okay to land there, then if they're a competent pilot and they have a stolen airplane, I would give them permission to land there. And that's what I thought we were doing on this. I had agreed to limit that to say four four friends that I know are competent and have proper airplanes to do it, to maybe 6 times a year. If that, it's never happened before, but that's what I would like to have on there. I will get in touch with VDOT, and I will get VDOT signs for it. I can make that happen. You can put that on there, if I can't make that happen, CUP does it.
Mr. Purdue, I'm in what I said earlier. I don't know you very well. I've heard good things about you. I believe you are a man of character and have done a lot of good things for the county over the years. Having said that, I'm gonna have to vote against this CUP. And I want to explain to you why I feel that way.
Okay.
First, I feel the need is not really a need, and it's a problem of your own making. You've sort of shot yourself in the foot on this one. You have a perfectly good airstrip, and you can look at it, it's over probably more than 1,000 feet from Route 14. And you want to move to another property that abuts Route 14. So that's my first major concern, is that the danger to traffic on Highway 14. Not even talking about the neighborhood, but just highway traffic on 14. And in the law, and I'm a lawyer, so I rely on a lot of my reasoning based on that. In nuisance law, there's an example of, and a nuisance is anything that can be offensive to a neighborhood or to an individual. Noise can be a nuisance, smell can be a nuisance. And in this particular case, it dealt with a hog farm. And a land developer bought land next to a hog farm, developed the land, built houses, and the people in the houses didn't like the smell of the hog farm. And they tried to petition to get the hog farm moved away. And they were unsuccessful because under the law, they moved to the nuisance. The nuisance was there and they moved to it. But the opposite is if you have, for example, a residential neighborhood and a farmer wants to buy land next to the residential neighborhood and put in a hog farm, in many cases that is denied because now the hog farm's moving to the neighborhood and creating a nuisance. And what we have here, the second part of my objection, is the closer proximity this airstrip is to a residential neighborhood. And these houses were built on this property before your intention of putting the airstrip where the blue line is. And we're talking about primarily middle-class families. And they probably have, most of them, mortgages on that piece of property, 15, 30-year mortgages. And for many people, this is the biggest investment they'll make in their lifetime. And so you're moving there, and it does inconvenience them. And yes, I think you will try to minimize that, but still, I could support your petition request if you could find another piece of property that's similarly situated to what you have now, that doesn't pose a greater threat to highway traffic and doesn't pose a greater nuisance to surrounding residential properties. And when I look at it that way, and this isn't, you're not having to move your airfield
because of some new government regulation, some outside entity or force is making you move it. You're just moving it because you now want to use the airstrip for wetlands mitigation, and you're more than them. As an entrepreneur, that's great to see you do that. But I think you have to weigh what's more important to you, the airstrip or the wetlands bank. And I don't think you should be shifting the airstrip over to the community and making them be impacted by that and making the public impacted by getting it closer to the highway. So based on those grounds, I'm gonna have to vote against the application.
Mr. Purdue, just a couple of clarification, one clarification. So you would be willing to stipulate to the VDOT signs, did I hear that correctly, to the signs?
Yes, I would.
Second, in reference to the number of occurrences that individuals fly to your property, or your parties, or your annual events, or whatever that is. When you said 6 was, the way I took it is 6 usually is not what happens. I think it's like up to 6. So would you be willing to change that to 4?
4 is fine.
4 is fine with you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Are you, just clarification, 4 additional planes 4 times a year?
Oh, no, could be one time, could be
Up
4
to
or 5
4, up
times.
to.
I'd like to just say 6 and then I'm covered. I don't want a lot of phone calls coming and trying to,
Yeah.
you know what it's gonna do. Because right now, every plane that flies overhead, it's me.
Understand.
It's-
Because frankly, I'm in favor of your airstrip. I think I've looked through this and I do think some of the additions to the CUP can be made, which would make it more acceptable to the owners. And I particularly like, the null and void once, if the property transfers or so forth. I think that's a very good point. And not flying over Peach Point, I think that would be acceptable. I think the wording for the school buses is a little messy.
How about if there's a school bus there, I don't.
That's what I was gonna say, you would certainly
Yeah,
know
I
if it's in the
mean, it's kind of
vicinity.
down to hours of the day and it's.
So that one is a, perhaps when you say when school buses are in the
I'm
vicinity.
never on the schedule. If I go over there and there's a school bus, I'm not taking off.
Right.
And something I need to clarify here. People think of an airplane coming in there and land at 100 miles an hour. I land at 45 miles an hour.
Yeah.
This is not highly dangerous. It's slow motion. It doesn't take much room. How bad of a wreck are you gonna have at 45 miles an hour?
So I think that with some amendments, where we can say the applicant, and his, and additional planes, up to 4 additional planes,
Yes, sir.
who are all in the short takeoff landing
I
classification.
would not let them land there if they want.
I know, but I think it has to be written.
Sure.
CPU.
Clarification, if I could, so
CPU.
are you saying 4 additional planes or 4 different times
I'm saying
throughout the year?
4 additional planes up to 4 times a year.
Okay, thank you.
Is that workable?
6 times,
6,
6 times.
I have no problem with that. 4 additional. And of course with the Dominion markers, not fly over Peach Point, null and void, and not fly when school buses are in the vicinity.
All right. And I would like to clarify that I know there was some big concern about the road. Most airports fly over roads. And I'm gonna be 300 to 500 feet when I go across that road leaving, and I'll be 50 or 100 feet coming in. It's not anything close, it's not anything out of the ordinary. Most airports that I've ever gone to fly across the road. I doubt if you've ever been on a commercial airline that didn't fly across roads, houses, shopping centers. You know, it's just, it's the way it works out. And I would, I'd like to say that I didn't just come up with this piece of land. I need to move the airport. I've searched Matthews high and low. Find a piece of land that's big enough, it's wetlands, it's in the middle of a cutover, and you can't put it down. So it's really hard to find a spot that will work. That's why I chose this, there's no other options that I can find.
Just a clarification question. You said no flying over Peach Point?
That was,
That was one.
that was in Ms. Minor's,
So
one of her recommendations.
I'm assuming this is for clarity, that that's for takeoff and landing. I
Right,
mean, if a plane is 500 feet in the air, it's kind of hard to.
well, that's not taking off a landing when it's 500 feet.
That's what I'm asking, that's for clarity, if it's for takeoff and landing. And Mr. Jones, do you have something?
Yeah, Mr. Andrade, I want to go back to 5.1-72, the requirements. And I'm going to read this again. Any person owning an area of land, any aircraft, which area is not within 5 miles of a commercial airport and has been constructed by such person for his private use and which is not open to the general public shall only be required to register. That's the single. What is the additional requirement over that one? What are those requirements?
And that, I do not have the answer to you.
I'm gonna need that answer.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna need
don't
that.
have that answer to that question.
I got you. Well, I'm gonna need to know what that is. Because if multiple aircraft are coming in here, I've only seen this for the first time. So there's something there outside of, there's additional requirements that are outside of just that single aircraft coming in. If we were talking about, say, his aircraft only, I've been led to believe, and I'm gonna make this clear, I've been led to believe all night, according to this paperwork and what I've heard, okay, is that this was only for his aircraft and his aircraft only. Tonight, as this paperwork, as it stands. And that's what I have been led to believe, and I believe the audio is gonna reflect that. Okay, so I've got questions of my own, and I'm not ready to vote on this right now until I get those questions answered. I will need to know what that is. What is the additional requirements? Because if there are additional requirements, if you vote to allow them to come in, then there's other requirements that are required there, and they should be reflected in the CUP.
Wouldn't I have that where I'm at now?
I couldn't tell you. I can't. I'm not. As others are worried about the current CUP you have now, that CUP is yours. It's not going anywhere until you take it away. It has nothing to do with this one. Has totally two separate things here. What I need to know is what the additional requirements are, because if they need to be in the CUP, if there's multiple aircraft coming in there, I need to know what those requirements are. To be fair. Does that make sense to you? Because all night I've been sitting here, when I got here, that's why I wanted to hear from Mr. Perdue, because it's been stated that it was for his aircraft and his aircraft only several times. Okay, and I'm only going by what I'm hearing here. So to be fair to everyone, to Mr. Perdue and to the neighbors down there, I need to know what these requirements are. You got to understand something. I lived in an FAA household. When the Air Florida plane crashed into that bridge out there, I was one of the first ones on the scene being in the United States Coast Guard. So I know all about air crashes, and I had to live in the household, okay, with a man that lived to eat and breathe FAA, okay? I just want some clarity. That's all I'm asking for, okay?
Question for Mr. Wilson. So we have 2 board members that need further clarification. If we table this to obtain that clarification, does that require us to have another public hearing? I'm just afraid you were going to say that.
Everything out again.
What's the question?
So why can't you accommodate all of us and catch only him. And he's the only property owner.
Mr. Walsh, did you want to amend your motion?
Yes, sir, I did. And I too want to be fair to the neighbors. So I will amend my motion to approve CUP 2024-01231 as presented by staff with these inclusions. Mr. Purdue will check with VDOT, and he has told us he can get signs for Route 14. I would also like for him to check with Dominion Energy and see if we can get the orange balls.
Sure I can.
Yeah, the reason I say that is when other people come flying in, I know you'll know where they're at, when other people come flying in, they need to know where those lines are. Flying in the past, I know that's a good, and then also, no flying over Peach Point. That's exactly why I asked you if the wind wasn't favorable, where you were gonna go.
I'm fine with that.
And also, the planning commission has suggested if you pass away that the CUP is null and void. I would like to add that. And then I'm gonna that'll be my motion. And then Ms. Phillips had something about the 4 or 5 people. I'll let her amend my motion.
Would you consider adding, no helicopters on this property other than EMS?
That's already in the staff analysis.
No, it's not. It says no military.
You can put that in there. I'm good with that.
It just says military.
It says no military helicopters.
So
Didn't say anything about-
No helicopters except EMS.
Ms. Phillips, what amendment, if you could say what you would like to ask Mr. Walsh to add to his.
Okay, I would amend it to say, cannot take off and land while school buses are in the vicinity. And also add, that, other, up to 4 short takeoff landing rated planes may, be accommodated at the landing strip up to, remember, up to six planes up to 4 times a year.
I think it was 4 planes up to 6.
Four, I'm sorry.
4 planes up to 6.
Four short takeoff landing rated airplanes up to 6 times a year.
Mr. Walsh, are you?
I absolutely will amend my motion.
So we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Do we have any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Purdue, because I didn't ask you before, is there a procedure involved to get these orange balls on the power lines? Do you know, through Dominion Energy?
I had talked to them before about it. It's not a problem to get done. I'm set to take care of it, whatever it is.
Sure, I appreciate you to do that.
Yeah, I asked, Robert Farmer, he's working there for a long time. He said he could get them, no problem. So I'm sure I see him.
And did you indicate that you thought VDOT could add signs and if they can't, CUP wouldn't be issued? Is that what you said?
That's fine with me. I'm sure they can put the signs there. I don't know what they cost, but I'm sure they can put it.
Do you have any further discussion?
I do.
Ms. Phillips?
I had said, I want to I've been thinking about this a lot, so I want to thank Mr. and Ms. Losi for inviting me to their property and to meet with them and their neighbors. Also, thank you, Mr. Purdue, for inviting me to your property and to see your landing strip and the plane and the pole barn. I reviewed the February planning meeting. I read the minutes of the March meeting as the media file was not available. I read the letters, all the letters that were presented for those who opposed the airstrip and listened carefully to the citizens who've spoken on behalf of Mr. Purdue. And I've reviewed this packet from the county planning office pretty thoroughly. This land is zoned RU and as such allows many diverse uses. Although a grass airstrip is not specifically allowed, there are many other permitted uses that in my view could be far more intrusive to the quiet nature of your neighborhood than the proposed airstrip with the restrictions, particularly with these restrictions that are now being put on the CUP. So I think that there could be, as we pointed out, some other things. Many of the concerns of the neighbors, such as noise, safety concerns, flooding of the road, and pollution, would likely be raised with any development on that piece of land. It's not just the airstrip. Along and adjacent to Route 14, within less than a mile of the proposed site, is a VDOT maintenance shed, the waste transfer station, recently approved the Trudy's portable toilets, as Rocky's Auto Repair, as a salvage yard, and a shooting range. To my knowledge, these would be much more intrusive than some of these things that you've mentioned, and certainly pollution. By right, this property could be a dairy farm, it could be a pig farm, it could have guinea fowl, it could have peacocks, and you can talk about some noise. And you could have children riding ATVs around during the days on weekends. I believe the neighbors will be far happier with a airstrip used by a single engine plane, which has flown 106 hours for the past 6 years. Furthermore, I appreciate that this site could be available for emergency use for first responders. Knowing there's a place for a helicopter to land to transport a citizen with a medical emergency is a benefit to all that county. For that reasons, I vote to approve the CUP.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go back to 5.1-72, where it says, for private use, which is not open to the general public, what are the requirements? And I'm telling you, they should be in the CUP, so there's no confusion. That's a state law. I don't make this up, it's a state law. Okay, so I'm a little perplexed why that information wouldn't be in here along with this, since my packet came highlighted.
Mr. Jones, could we could Mr. Wallace amend his motion to include that all the requirements of that code section that's required by the state?
I'd like to see the code section first, when it's applied. And that's just, I'm looking at the state law and how it's applied. And like I said, we don't have a county attorney here tonight, so.
That's a private airstrip. I would think it has to be. It's a private airstrip, it would have to be by only his permission. That's the owner's.
You can interpret the law the way I'm reading it right here on the page. So I guess it's open for interpretation, but I'll stand on it.
You're looking at the application that's in the packet.
I'm looking at the application, I'm looking at the state law. And if you'd like me to read the paragraph and get to you, I
No, I
will.
got it.
All right, so I'm just saying, what's bothering me about this is what is the requirements. My thing is, if we were dealing with him only flying in himself right now, we wouldn't be dealing with this part of it. It says for his use and his use only. Once it goes outside of that scope, then there's further things that are required. I just simply would like to have known what those were. And they could be significant, that's all I'm saying to you. But you can read the paragraph anywhere you want. I'm gonna stand on what I'm reading right here and what I was led to believe in here tonight when we got started. There's nothing in here, and I understand, that's why I wanted to hear from Mr. Purdue, to hear it from him what his intent is. Because it's only fair to him and it's only fair to the public out there. But all night long, I've heard, well, this is only for his aircraft. That's what I've heard all night.
So we have a motion and a second. Mr. Walls, could you repeat your motion with all the amendments?
Yes, sir. But let me make a statement. I disagree with Mr. Jones. This is not, correct me if I'm wrong, this is not a public airstrip. I think I heard you say earlier, when people fly in, they call and ask for your permission.
That's the way it works. And if I'm reading this thing properly, what it's saying is if you're only going to use it for your own use, you would not be required or need to register it with the FAA. But I'm going to register it with the FAA. That's my main reason for doing
If you,
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to do that because we've muddied the waters a little bit, but I'm gonna try to do this to appease everyone. I'd like to make a motion to approve CUP 202.
Can I stop you really quick? You're just restating the motion you already made. Thank you.
I am, including what's been talked about. Application 2024-01231 to be approved as presented with these exceptions. Mr. Purdue has agreed to post or give a VDOT and post the signs alerting motorists of local line aircraft. He has also agreed to speak with Dominion Energy and get the orange balls put up on the power lines. He's also agreed not to fly over the Peach Point subdivision. If the wind is not favorable, he will go to home field to land. Should he pass away or sell the property, this CUP will be null and void. Also to allow up to 4 aircraft to land 6 times a year. And that would cover us on our flyovers for our local festivals. That would be my motion.
And I think Ms. Phillips also asked to include if there's no school buses in the vicinity.
Mr. Purdue told us if the school bus is dropping off or the school bus is picking up, he's not gonna take off. So I think that's common sense. What we're missing here is pilots are very safe. Pilots don't just willy-nilly fly around looking for a grass strip to land in. So that's my motion.
So that's Mr. Walls' motion. Ms. Phillips, you had seconded it earlier. Will you second that one? Or?
I second.
Do we have a motion and a second? Do we have any further discussion?
And Mr. Chairman, would you entertain on behalf of the
No, sir.
citizens one
No, sir.
comment?
No, sir. Thank you.
Are you kidding
I
me?
got it.
We've already,
So he can talk all night, but we can't talk.
Okay.
That's
You
not.
already had an opportunity to talk.
No, we
Wait,
haven't.
hold
Mr.
It's-
Chairman,
we're
actually,
gonna-
the condition was raised, and that's just regarding.
I'm sorry, we're gonna continue with our discussion. Thank you. Okay, do we have any further discussion?
I have a question.
Okay, Mr. Bowe.
You're right, the waters have been muddy, and we need to try to make them as clear as we can. I thought earlier you were in agreement and Mr. Purdue was in agreement to add as a condition, no helicopters other than EMS helicopters on this property.
I just stated that.
No, you, I'm sorry.
Yes, I did. I just stated that. That would be one of the conditions. We just had this discussion 5 minutes ago.
I'm not sure it was listed. We could tell, but I think.
So that is included in your motion.
And the clarification, if we could, on the VDOT signs. As I understood what you said, is that he would get with VDOT and place VDOT signs. Now, the question, or place signs, is that gonna be signs in VDOT right away or signs on his property?
I thought I was clear about this earlier, but I'm gonna try this one more time. It makes no sense to me to put a sign on his property with the traffic going towards Gloucester. That's absurd. So Mr. Purdue has agreed that this CUP will be null and void if he can't get VDOT signs.
That's a
It
condition.
doesn't get any clearer than that, Mr. Bond.
I understand that. Mr. Walls, if you go back and listen to what you said, that was not in your restated motion.
Then you amend it, and you make your amendment then, sir.
So we have
Wow.
Mr. Walls' motion. If I'm understanding correctly, to include the no helicopters.
Yes, sir.
We have a second. And do we have any further discussion? I would like to make a comment to the public before we take our vote.
Well, I'd like to know. For point of clarification, is what you just said part of your motion about VDOT having to place signs? If they don't, it's null and void?
That's what Mr. Purdue agreed.
Is that part of your motion?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
The reason that I didn't allow the public to talk for Mr. Flynn to talk is we are currently in our board member discussion. But during our discussion, we had questions for Mr. Purdue. It didn't have anything to do with not wanting to hear from the public. The public had their public hearing time to talk. So I just want to clarify that.
Last year, 3 minutes.
Yes,
How
sir.
many minutes you been standing out there for,
And-
25?
I'm not gonna get into a debate, I just explained to you
Probably best.
why. Yes, sir.
Change the motion.
Okay. Mr. Green, could you call for the vote, please?
Mr. Bowen,
No.
Mr. Walls,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes,
Mr. Jones,
Nay.
Mr. Dawes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Against, end of our public hearing. Will I take a motion to adjourn? Ms. Phillips, I'm sorry. So the results were 3-2, okay. Take a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adjourn.
We have a second.
second.
All in favor? Say aye. Aye.
I'm ashamed of you. I'm
Sorry, I did.
ashamed.
You're for the people. Also, crooked motherfucker. Yeah, I bet.